Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Islamic Learning with Master As-Sabur. Do not adjust your television sets. I am not Imam Hazem Rashid. He did not have an extreme makeover. He's on hiatus, so I'm, as a program coordinator, I'm just co-hosting our show, keeping us going, and I'm going to keep sharing some topics with you. So today we have a guest from the Muslim community. His name is Ishmail Al-Jihad, and he has an organization called Say No to Prison Initiative. So I'm going to let him introduce himself and his organization and tell us what it's all about. Ishmael, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Thank you. The Say No to Prison Initiative is an initiative that I started after working 5 years in the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, specifically in the Department of Juvenile Justice. I was there working in the capacity of a Muslim chaplain, and I saw a need for children to learn from the onset of their life, meaning, in their early teens to, their young adulthood, that they had to make a conscious decision not to come to prison. I had serviced several thousand children in the 5 years, and I repetitively saw so many of them come back, and I saw a great deal of them either die or move on to the upper level prisons. So that's basically was a big driving force behind me starting the Say No to Prison initiative.
Okay. So where is the organization located?
Well, basically the organization is a mobile organization. I still work inside the prisons. So what I do is I started a program, and that particular program is called Confession, Commitment, and Change. So inside the organization, inside the institution, I run the Confession, Commitment, and Change program with the youth that it is that I help there, but also here locally in Sacramento, every Thursday from 7 to 8 o'clock at the Sojourner Truth Art Museum, located on the corner of 24th and Florin. We have a class where I reach out to at-risk youth here in South Sacramento, and we do the same Confession, Commitment, and Change program. Basically, our Confession, Commitment, and Change program, I take the kids through a 21-week process, 7 weeks in each of the 3 levels of number 1, confession, number 2, commitment, and number 3, change. Basically, within the confession process, what we do is we get the child on his particular terms, on his own terms, to confess what his at-risk behavior is, so that we can kind of help him analyze his personal reasoning behind what it is that he's doing that's either got him in trouble or either has him in the risk of being in trouble. And then from there, at the places that we do run the programs. So I guess you can kind of say, in a way, it's a mobile program and it's a mobile initiative. We are currently looking for some funding to secure a building so that we can offer more programs, and we can actually have somewhat of a collaboration with other organizations that are here locally in Sacramento and throughout California that are driven to kind of struggle against the mass incarceration that it is that we have. But I'm sorry if I went too long, but
No,
that's
So I like the idea of confession, because it's getting the children to admit or to acknowledge, their actions, their wrong actions that could lead to, bad, that can lead them on the path to prison. So it's like self-accountability. So I like that. There's some self-accountability going on.
Yeah, definitely. What I found is like one time what happened, I had a kid, he came to me, and I asked him, I said, what did you do? Why did you come to prison? He said, oh, my grandmother lost her job, so I robbed someone. I said, it's quite interesting. You robbed him because your grandmother lost her job. He said, yes. I said, well, did you eat that day? He said, yes. I said, breakfast, lunch, and dinner? He said, yes. I said, did you have a place to live? He said, yes, I have a place to live. So I said to him, I said, were you guys in risk of foreclosure, eviction, anything like that? He said, no, everything in the house was fine. I said, well, did your grandmother ask for you to rob someone to get money for her? He said, no, she just told me I couldn't have Jordans. So here I found that this individual didn't have a valid reason. He was very well taken care of. His family had just met some difficult times, and but he just didn't have another outlet. So our organization is there so we can get kids thinking, so we can get kids to have a better understanding of, you know, what it is in society that they're going up against: peer pressure, media pressure, the different social ills that are happening in the community. And that's where we kind of start them off with kind of realizing that they're not always victims of happenstance or circumstance, that some of them actually create the problems that it is that they have for themselves.
Excellent. So what age groups do you work with?
Well, typically we work with people that are generally between the ages of 13 and 25.
Okay. So to be a part of your program, what do they need to do to be a part of it? Just show up, or how they?
Basically, what it is that we like to do in a formal setting is have some type of an assessment. Further on down the line, what we would like to do is have children referred to us, maybe by county probation, by juvenile hall, by different organizations within the, state level or county level, to say, hey, these are kids that we think that may benefit from your confession, commitment, and change program. That way we can give them an assessment, okay, find out where they are, how severe the situation is with them, and see where it is in the program we can place them. Now, what we've been doing at the Sojourner Truth Art Museum is a lot of the children aren't kids that have been in trouble before, but they have kids that have the factors that, or the statistical factors that could lend them into being in trouble. Okay. Saying, for instance, that they have a parent that has been incarcerated before. They have a friend that has been incarcerated before. They live in a gang-infested neighborhood. So basically what we're doing with them is we're not necessarily pushing them through the confession, commitment, and change, because they necessarily don't have anything yet to confess. And it happens a lot with the younger kids that are in and around 12, 13. So what we do with them is we focus on a life plan. We get them to kind of focus and say, hey, what is it that I want to be? And then I just kind of sit down with them personally and help them plan out that life plan and show them where different things in their community could kind of push itself in as kind of a wrench in their program, and kind of help them to be prepared for that, and realize their plan further down the line.
So do you work with other county organizations as far as getting referrals? Do other organizations refer youth to you?
Well, what we've been kind of doing, I myself and the Sojourner Truth Art Museum, because they have another program that they run on Saturdays that works with youth. Okay. They've been referring a lot of people to me. I've been in negotiations with the Elk Grove Unified School District to get our confession, commitment, and change program initiated as a suspension alternative within the school district there.
Oh, wow.
I've also working on some connections with the Sacramento County probation, juvenile probation. I have some things I'm doing with also the California Department of Corrections to have my program as one of the official programs within the institutions. Right now, it's just something that I just offer to my children as a, favor to them, to kind of help the communities that it is that they're going back to. But all of those things, I guess we can say, are in the works.
So how many people do you work with in your organizations? Is it just you, or?
Well, basically right now, I have myself that I do a lot of the work. My wife helps me. She's the VP of my home, and she's the VP of the organization. But I also work, like I said, in connection with other groups that have the same, end goal. There's a lot of different organizations here in Sacramento and in California that are fighting against mass incarceration. One of those organizations being the GAME program with a friend of mine, Antar Jenna, that he runs, that he started in the California Medical Facility at Vacaville, California. We work close together because he's working with an older age group of people. I'm working with a younger age group of people, and both of those groups are somewhat a reflection of one another. A lot of the guys, and it was actually when I was working with him side by side and dealing with some of his guys, that once they found out I worked with the youth at the California Youth Authority, they told me about how they were there in 1967, or how they were there in 1978, how they were there in the 1980s. And I said, at that point, I said, I got to do something about this, because I just can't imagine one of my kids that I deal with on a day-to-day basis, and then he's 60 years old or 65 years old or 70 years old, and he's still inside the system. So we kind of try to have a network that can kind of, join the struggle against this mass incarceration.
Okay, great. So when you're working with young people, what are some of the common things you hear them say that they want from adults as far as guidance, or anything that they feel is missing, that they're not getting from adults?
Correct direction. Most of the youth that it is that I run into, they come from single family homes, and when one of those parents do not instruct them to live a life better than what it is that they can show them, a lot of kids, I guess, just quite frankly, they don't know any better, and they've never seen any better. So one of the things that we want to do with the Say No to Prison initiative is teach them that some of the ideas you have about protecting your community, some of the ideas you have about making money to provide for yourself, some of the ideas that you have about brotherhood, all of those things are rooted in good, but it's just how you act them out, right? Whether you do it for good or whether you do it for evil. It's like one time I had a kid, and I wanted to ask him, I said, well, how did your father feel about your crime? And this was before I changed my ideology in dealing with them, where I used to have more of a harsh, like, get your act together, you better do this, and what's your problem, and that type of really, really hard, forceful stuff that I thought would work, but I was sadly mistaken once when I asked a kid, what would your father think about where you are? And he laughed at me. And he said, what do you mean? He said, my father is my crime partner.
Wow.
He said, my father is doing life without the possibility of parole so that I could go home one day.
Wow.
And so when he said that, I was taken back, and I said, hey, it's obvious that their families don't know any better, haven't learned any better, because now we're running into where we have 3 generations of gang affiliated parents, grandparents, uncles, aunts, so forth and so on. So they just need to learn. So what I do is I just teach them from the beginning that you have to be good, you know, and goodness is, you know, A through Z, you know, and so we just kind of build from there. So it's kind of like a rebirth. When they come to the program, by the time they get into the change period, you know, after they make the confession of what's really going on, then, you know, I like them to get them to make a commitment. First, you got to commit to yourself that this is what you want to do. After that, then you commit to your family that, look, I'm changing, whether you guys want to change or not, whether you want to see me change or not. You know, one of my kids, when he was going through his process of change, and he sent pictures to his father that happened to be in prison, you know, his father tore up the picture and sent it back to him and told him, you know, what are you doing?
Wow.
You're supposed to stay on this path to come this way with me. And he was, you know, he was thrown back by that his father didn't want him to get out of prison. He wanted him to stay in prison forever. So I try to get them that whether your parents want you to make the commitment or not, then you have to try on your own to make that commitment, and then after that, then change. And how do we make the change? And that right there goes into their new life.
Okay. So basically, they're just learning basic fundamental things. This is right. This is wrong, and just
morality.
Just more basic morality.
Exactly.
Morality.
Basic morality. What is good? What is moral? And what is immoral? You know, right. Stealing is wrong. You know, robbing is wrong. Murder is wrong. Right? Working is correct. That's the best way to do things, right? Yes. Being a man, you protect your family. You provide for your family. Put a roof over their head. You struggle. You get dirty. You know, it's hard. It's painful. It hurts. But that's the way it is that you can stay free. That's the way that it is that you can grow into be a positive role model for the community.
Love it. So as a Muslim, I'm sure, you know, your faith and your holy book, the Quran, influences you a lot in your works and how you approach this. So how, just share how Islam affects your approach to your work.
Well, I guess I would have to say that a verse comes to mind in the Quran. It says in chapter 9, and it says that Muhammad, the messenger, is severely concerned about you, and that he has rahmah and mercy. And so basically, you know, not the whole verse verbatim, what the essence of what the verse means is that Muhammad was a humanitarian, that he cared about what happened to mankind, that mankind be saved from destruction that was caused by their own hand. So my driving force is trying to be a mercy to mankind, is showing them that, look, God also says in the Quran in another verse that verily God is all forgiving and merciful. So forgiveness is attainable. You can change yourself through the mercy of God, and that everything doesn't have to be harsh, and that what society wants from you, needs from you, and expects from you, it's already deep inside your heart. All you have to do is just pull it out, and you too can become a mercy to mankind.
That is beautiful. And the beautiful thing about this is that this really helps the viewers, community of Sacramento, everybody who's going to be watching this, to see that, you know, how Islam, the guidance from our holy book, how someone like yourself can take that, embody it, and then go out into the community and do this type of work that affects people who are Muslim, non-Muslim, you know, the community. And it's like a seed. So that, you know, that's just so beautiful.
Yeah, it's very, very, very important. You know, one time the Prophet Muhammad, as a Jewish man, died, and his funeral procession was going through the city. The prophet, he stood up and he cried. And his companions asked him, well, how come it is that you're crying? He said, well, I never had the opportunity to impart my message upon this man. So the prophet, may peace and blessing be upon him, was severely stressed, and he was hurt that he lacked the responsibility to, deliver the message to this individual man. For what reason it slipped his mind, because he was a neighbor of this man. So we've been ordered to bring the message to all of our neighbors, 40 houses in every direction. So the Say No to Prison initiative up front is not necessarily a religious-based organization, but in its heart, its driving force is to be a mercy to mankind, to help these people who are struggling. We have more than 2 million people who are in prison in America, and 70,000 of them are youth. So the Say No to Prison initiative is working hard to make sure that we lower those numbers and that the kids have a choice in their life that they can say no to prison.
Beautiful. So what, if you could look in the camera and speak to some of the young people out there that you want to prevent from coming to prison, what would you say to them?
I guess what I would say to them is that prison is not the place that you want to be. Prison can change your life drastically in all negative formats. That there's not much that is positive of a prison environment. And there are people like myself that it pains and it hurts to see young kids live their life behind bars. And the Say No to Prison initiative is here to help you in every way to keep you out of that particular environment. And you can contact me personally, 916-949-0338, 24 hours a day, with any problem that it is that you have, legal, spiritual, emotional, social, or otherwise. We're here to help.
Beautiful. And what can adults who know right from wrong, what can they do to assist you in your organization and your works?
Well, first and foremost, you guys can show up on the Thursday nights that we have there at the Sojourner Truth Art Museum between 7 o'clock and 8 o'clock. Of course, organizations like this need donations. We need money to help with the effort. But at the same time, you can encourage your own youth to say no to prison.
Okay. And that this is something that Sacramento so needs. And I'm just happy to learn myself, more about what it is that you do, because I knew about your organization when you told me about it, but to hear you talk about it in depth, it's just, it's like air, coming into our community. So I'm just happy that you're here to share about this. And
I'm happy that I was able to be here.
Yeah, so anytime. And so Masjid As-Sabur, we are located at 4926 15th Avenue in Sacramento Boulevard, off Stockton Boulevard. And we have Juma services every Friday at 1:30 p.m. So anybody's welcome to come and learn. So please come on out, hear about us, learn about us, come visit us. And thanks for tuning in to our show. And again, this is our guest, Ishmail Al-Jihad, and his organization is Say No to Prison Initiative. And please contact him and get involved. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. I want to remind everyone, Masjid As-Sabur, 4926 15th Avenue. Our new masjid is gorgeous. We just finished planting over 100 plants in front of the masjid. We just got through cleaning up the kitchen and getting ready to clean up all of the wudu stations. And we want you to come and join us. Every Friday, 1:30 p.m., Masjid As-Sabur, Sacramento. We are also on the web, www.masjidassabur.org. And we're on Facebook, so please like us. Again, we thank you for your patience and your time. We want to remind you that God truly has a message for you. And we want to remind you that we are here to give you any help that you may need. As God has taught us, He is a merciful God. As long as you come to Him and ask forgiveness, He will forgive you. So no matter where you are in life, there is a hope for change.